Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Sean Huggins and this is Europe with Hugs. Thank you so much for being here. Today we got a pretty interesting looking video. Will the EU spy on you? Oh damn. Chat Control explained the EU's plan to read your private messages. Oh snap. This video is from EU Made Simple. Link to the original down in the description as always. But let's waste no time and hop straight into it. Here we go.
This video is sponsored by Proton Pass for Business, Chat Control, a plan in Brussels that could give the EU so much power that they can scan every message you send, whether on WhatsApp, Signal, email, you name it. They say it's to protect children, but critics warn it's the biggest mass surveillance scheme Europe has ever seen. Who is right though? Well, in this video we'll uncover what Chat Control actually is and how it came to life, then the arguments for it and against it, and finally my own take on whether this should ever become law. So, what exactly is Chat Control? Its real name is a bit less catchy: the Regulation to Prevent and Combat Child Sexual Abuse. The idea was put forward in May 2022 by the European Commission, the EU's executive branch, by Commissioner Ylva Johansson from Sweden. She said the aim was simple: to stop the spread of child sexual abuse material online. Her Chat Control proposal would make tech companies scan every text message, picture, video, and file people send, even on apps that are supposed to be private and encrypted. This covers interpersonal communication services like Gmail or WhatsApp, which allow people to send private messages online. Hosting services are also affected. That means anything that stores content for users, from private cloud storage like Dropbox to public social networks like Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok.
This is crazy.
And small non-commercial forums like Discord or hobby communities would also be affected.
Whoa.
And if the system's algorithm thinks something is illegal, it would flag it and forward it to a new EU center, which would then pass it on to the police in the relevant country for investigation.
Jesus.
And this is where the controversy really explodes. Because to work, Chat Control would not just scan the messages of people already suspected of crimes, it would scan just about everyone's messages, all the time. That, critics say, is mass surveillance.
Probably not
on a
politicians,
scale Europe
though.
has never seen before. Every message, photo, and file is scanned automatically. No suspicion required. No exceptions. Even encrypted chats. To make that possible, you would have to weaken or break end-to-end encryption completely. And the problem is, once you do that, you are not just letting the police see inside these messages. You're creating doorways that hackers, criminals, and even hostile governments could exploit.
Yeah, hostile governments would definitely exploit that because they're already doing everything they can to sow discourse in, Western world. So that would definitely happen for sure.
The next problem with Chat Control is the question of fundamental rights. Articles 7 and 8 of the EU's own charter guarantee privacy and data protection. Critics warn that Chat Control risks undermining both, which would chip away at one of Europe's most democratic values. Even if you set those principles aside, there is still risk of false positives. These automated scanners do not have common sense.
Especially once you start using AI, which I'm sure they would do. Everything is AI nowadays, and AI makes mistakes, makes a lot of mistakes so far. And imagine how many mistakes there would be if even just 0.001% of all of the messages and data and videos and pictures and every single thing that's happening in all of the European Union, even if just 0.001% is false, that would still be a lot of stuff that is incorrect. And when you're talking about trying to protect children, I'm assuming that that could lead to some huge and very serious problems for some innocent people just because the algorithm isn't programmed correctly or whatever,
They can mistake an innocent holiday photo or a private joke for something illegal. That can put completely innocent people under suspicion and waste police resources. And perhaps, most ironically, some child protection experts, including voices at the United Nations, say blanket scanning could actually be less effective at protecting children. They argue it weakens security for everyone and diverts time and money away from prevention methods that are actually proven to work. On top of all of that, there's also global precedent. If the EU starts scanning every private message, authoritarian governments will point to Europe and say, they are doing it, so can we. And that could normalize mass surveillance far beyond Europe's borders. And what I find especially alarming is that military, government, and law enforcement accounts would be exempt from the scanning rules.
I knew
that
it.
Creates a clear sense of double standards.
I knew it.
One rule for the citizens
and
another for those in power. But of course, that's only one side of the story. Supporters of chat control say it's one of the only real ways to catch criminals who hide behind encryption. Without scanning, investigators simply cannot see the material being shared. And that means abuse can go undetected for years. And for victims of abuse, speed counts. They also argue that tech companies already scan for illegal content, like terrorism or copyright violations.
Also
so doing the same for child abuse material should not be treated as unusual. Although, it should be pointed out that this only happens for non-encrypted services like Gmail or Dropbox, not on encrypted apps like WhatsApp, Signal, or our sponsor today, Proton. But nothing has been decided just yet. The Commission first introduced this idea in May 2022, but that is only the very first step. For something to become EU law, two other big institutions also have to agree. The European Parliament, where members debate and vote on these types of legislation, and the Council of the EU, which is made up of ministers from all EU countries. And in November 2023, the MEPs in the European Parliament pushed back hard. They voted to remove blanket scanning and instead called for targeted detection only, with strong protections for encrypted messages. Then it was the Council's turn. By June 2024, national governments still could not agree. Some countries supported the idea, but others, especially those worried about privacy, opposed it. And with no consensus, the talks stalled. It could have ended there.
I am actually a little bit surprised that so many people, or countries, I guess I should say, actually approved it, because it would be my thinking that most European countries would value privacy over, scanning every single person's every message, every photo, everything from everybody.
But in July 2025, Denmark took over the rotating council presidency. That means for 6 months, they get to decide what the ministers talk about first. And Denmark wasted no time. They put chat control right back at the top of the list. The revised chat control proposal tries to sound more acceptable by sorting services into low, medium, and high risk, with only the high risk ones facing scanning. And at first, scanning would only cover visual content, photos, videos, and links. No scanning of text messages or voice notes, at least for now. If the law reaps benefits, it could then be expanded later. And Denmark are pushing hard, saying they want it agreed by October 2025. But still, there's significant resistance. Right now in the Council of the EU, 3 EU countries are actively opposing the law. 15 are actively supporting it. And 9 are still undecided.
Opposing the law. Wow, there's actually, there's a lot more supporting than I would have thought still. And a lot of undecided, which, obviously could go either way. Interesting.
In the Council, laws need what is called a qualified majority to pass. That means 2 things. At least 55% of the EU countries have to vote yes, and together they have to represent at least 65% of the EU's total population. This makes the 9 undecided countries crucial.
All right, let's see. Undecided countries: Finland, Estonia, Romania, Greece. It's interesting that kind of on the eastern side of the European Union, there's a lot more no's and a lot more I don't knows. And then the whole western side is like, yeah, sure, why not? I wonder why that is. Maybe, the uncertainty of being a little bit closer to Russia, maybe that kind of persuades people a different way. I don't know. Interesting. Anyways.
They hold the power to swing the outcome in either direction. On October the 14th, the debate will resume, with Denmark leading the push to win over those still holding back. And the final barrier is the European Parliament. There the rules are simpler. A proposal only needs a simple majority. more than half the members of the parliament voting in favor.
Damn.
And this is where you can make a difference. If you're against chat control, you can take action by contacting your MEPs or government ministers and urging them to oppose it. Here is what I think. I think it is clear to people watching this channel that we are pro-EU and see it as a force for good, both for Europe and the world.
Sure.
But in my opinion, this law is not good. The drawbacks are simply too big. And for me, two stand out above all: mass surveillance and breaking encryption. Yes, right now this might only be used to scan for illegal images. But once the system is in place, what stops the next step? First child abuse material, then terrorism, then maybe hate speech, political extremism, or even protests the government does not like. Step by step, the scope could quietly expand.
Yeah. As it becomes normalized, it can just keep expanding and keep expanding. Maybe it doesn't happen this year or in the next 5 years, but maybe 10 years from now, 15 years from now. Once it becomes completely normal, then who knows?
And then, to make things worse, military, government, and law enforcement accounts would be excluded from the scanning.
Yeah.
That is crazy. One rule for the citizens and another one for those in power. This is exactly
That's how
the
it
kind
always
of
is,
double
though.
standards that makes people lose trust in the state.
True.
Our governments really need to stop that nonsense. I love that our data is protected in Europe, and I will continue to support initiatives against chat control.
Ooh, all right. Wow. Very interesting video today. I'm not sure how you guys, the experts, feel about it. You are the Europeans, though. So I feel like I got to ask, what do you think of this? Do you think that chat control is a good option? Do you think that it should be tweaked a little bit? Do you think that fully scanning everything, that is the way to go? Or, I don't know, something else? I'm curious what you guys think, so let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. And when you're done there, consider subscribing, leaving a like on the video. All that good stuff is quick, easy, free, and it really helps the channel a lot. So thank you in advance. That's all the time that I have for today, though. So thank you guys so much for being here. And as always, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.